The challenges are so great at every level, but in challenges, how many know that challenges present opportunities? And America has come to a point, and it's of our own making. I made reference to it earlier today. We've kicked God out of our schools. We no longer, in 1962, we said you can't pray, you can't read the Bible, 1963, and look at the result. But now I believe increasingly that those that are tasked with overseeing these spheres of influence are realizing they cannot solve this problem. And so through the significance of this problem, the opportunity is there for us now to come back in if we're willing to serve. And Eric, you've been doing that in the schools. You know, God was kicked out of the schools, but now people are praying. It might be silently, but they're praying for help. And you're doing that. You're bringing this into the schools.
Well, you know, it's a delight to address you because pastors play such an important role. It's all about what we call relational activism. There's time and place for politics, time and place for legal action. But day to day, you have to think in terms of building relationships with the superintendent, school board members, school principals, because you're both involved in the raising of children. Your children are in your church, maybe an hour on Sunday, maybe a midweek service for the youth group. They're in the schools 36 hours a week. So what I would encourage you to do, a very practical thing, is just reach out to the superintendent. Say, hey, can we have lunch sometime? And then you sit down with them and you don't have a big agenda, but you just say, how can I pray for you? What are you dealing with right now? And you start a relationship. But in the course of that relationship, you're also letting them know, you know, a lot of our families send their kids to your schools. So I'm very interested in what's happening in those classrooms. And you can help them understand all that could really happen in those classrooms by just kind of opening their eyes. We find superintendents, school administrators, they're not anti-Christian. They just don't want trouble. And they're afraid, they think they've bought into the lie of the so-called separation of church and state. Oh, we can't do these sorts of things in our schools. And you can, through the course of this relationship, help them understand three things. One, the academic standards in your state actually support teaching about the Bible and Christianity. Now, people are shocked when they hear this. Educators are shocked when they hear this. We speak all over the country. And so many teachers and administrators have never heard what their own state's academic standards say, because if it's not in the textbook, they don't teach it. So I'm just going to, real quick, do a shout out to 5 states. I ask your staff, what states are most represented here? And how many of you are from Virginia? They're the #1 state. Raise your hand. All right. Let me give you something that that is expected. We talk about building the wall of righteousness in your communities. Did you know your states have actually given you the bricks to do it? But so often we go, I don't even know the bricks were there. Here's what's expected in Virginia. This is from your state's academic standards. Students should have essential knowledge on the beliefs, traditions, and customs of Judaism. Belief in one God, the Torah, which is the written records and beliefs of Jews, the 10 Commandments, which state moral and religious conduct. Every student in Virginia is supposed to study the 10 Commandments. Don't worry about putting a plaque on the wall. Have them study it for a week. When it comes to Christianity, they're supposed to understand the beliefs of Christianity, monotheism. I'm quoting now. Jesus as both Son and incarnation of God, life after death, New Testament containing accounts of the life and teachings of Jesus and Peter and Paul. Okay, second biggest state. How many are from Ohio? All right. Anybody know your state motto? Ohio's state motto is the best motto in the country. With God, all things are possible. And did you know you have a state law? A state law that if you donate a plaque or a sign or even the money to have with God all things are possible in your schools, the school must accept it. Here's what it says. If a copy of the official motto of the United States of America, in God we trust, or the official motto of Ohio, with God all things are possible, is donated to any school district, or if money is donated to the district specifically for the purpose of purchasing such material, the Board of Education of the school district shall, not may, shall accept the donation and display the motto in an appropriate manner in classrooms, auditoriums, or cafeterias of a school building. You could have that saying put in every classroom in Ohio. See, administrators don't even know this sort of stuff.
With God, all things are possible.
Okay, number 3, you got how many pastors from Florida? All right, Florida. Here's what your students are expected to know. So here's another brick for the wall of righteousness. Identify key figures and the basic beliefs of early Christianity and how those beliefs impacted the Roman Empire. Examples are Christian monotheism, Jesus as the Son of God, and Peter and Paul. All your students are supposed to know who Jesus is, what his message was, and what Paul's message of salvation was. Okay, North Carolina. All right, North Carolina, did you know that all your students are supposed to learn as a civics lesson the preamble of the North Carolina Constitution? They have to learn it. Probably a lot of schools don't even teach it because it's not in the textbook, they don't teach it. Here's what your preamble says. And students are supposed to learn this and analyze why it's important. We, the people of the state of North Carolina, grateful to Almighty God, the sovereign ruler of nations, for the preservation of American Union and the existence of our civil, political, and religious liberties, and acknowledging our dependence on him for the continuance of those blessings to us and our posterity, do, for the more certain security thereof and for the better government of this state, ordain and establish this Constitution. Frankly, you could put that in a poster in every classroom. But the students are expected to study it and understand it. Okay, one last one. The 5th biggest state represented here is California. How many from California? All right. This may blow you away. California, for all of its craziness, but the weather is good. Here's what 6th graders are supposed to know. 6th graders are expected to know the gospel, as articulated by the Apostle Paul. I would start with Romans 1 and go right on through the Romans road. But here's what it says, quote, students are to note the origins of Christianity in the Jewish messianic prophecies, the life and teachings of Jesus of Nazareth as described in the New Testament, and the contribution of St. Paul the Apostle to the definition and spread of Christian beliefs. And then it says, for example, belief in the Trinity, resurrection, and salvation. If you went to the California Department of Education's website and looked up 6th grade social studies standards, it's right there. Wow. So the bricks are already there to build the wall. Yeah. But people in your congregation don't even know it. And so you can just pull back the curtain and say, here's what the laws expect, here's what the academic standards expect. And when you have these relationships with superintendents, you can ask them, are you teaching this? How are your policies? Do they promote academic freedom? You know, our families, their religion is very important to them. Are you making a faith-friendly place for our students? And then appropriate integration strategies. How do you actually do this in a classroom? I've got one picture of a teacher. You can show that picture now. One picture of a teacher when she understood, this is not the teacher, this is the 2nd grader. When the teacher understood that she could create a faith-friendly environment, and the assignment was do an oral report on one of your heroes, and this little 2nd grader, Olivia, wanted to do it on Jesus. This teacher now, freed from the fear that, oh, I'm going to get in trouble because I'm breaking the law. No, California expects them to do this. She dressed up like Jesus, even if you can't see there close up, she even put a little beard on and talked about the birth, life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. And Shirley, her teacher, this is a public school, this is not private school. And Shirley, her teacher, said it just changed the way the classroom interacted now. All the Christian kids love to talk about Jesus. They bring their Bibles to school. And it's all because, you see, Barna Research estimates nearly 50% of public school teachers are church-attending Christians. But they're all hunkered down, afraid. They're in the closet. We're the ones in the closet these days. And as soon as you can help them understand what they actually can do. Nothing sneaky. Here's what the law says you're supposed to be doing. Here's what your standards expect you to do. They just blossom. And so you, as Paul says, blessed are the feet of those who bring good news, not only the good news of the gospel, but the good news of freedom. And so that's really what you can do, is begin those relationships and then begin feeding them that information of all that can happen in their schools. So I'm sorry, I got going.
No, that's powerful, Eric. In fact, I mean,
What?
Texas.
Tell us about Texas.
Where is Texas located? Isn't that the state that's in the shadow of Louisiana?
We did research on every state's academic standards. Contact me afterwards. I'll send you your state standards on the Bible and Christianity.
I really